Something inside me that pulls beneath the surface, consuming, confusing. This lack of self-control I fear is never ending. Controlling, I can't see to find myself again. My walls are closing in.
Got a sense of confidence, convinced that it's just too much pressure to take.
I felt this way before, so insecure. It's falling in my skin. These words, they will not be yours. Fear is
All right. This is weird. All right. So let's get the recording started here. All right. So just basically, here's just kind of the core subject for today's study. I want you guys to go back and think about everything that you've witnessed happened since, again, just think about the core stuff that's really happened since we entered the second half of the year, okay? Record stuff. And the second half of the year isn't coincidental. There's a critical time in this. It's a budget period. That's when a budget comes forward, but again, if they're going to change a rate, it's going to be at a budget period, budget point. Okay, I want you to realize that. So, just wanted you guys to pay attention. Now, so the second half of the year would have started July, ending in December. Okay, second half of the year, our standard Gregorian calendar on that. And look at the amount of record things that you've witnessed coming forward for the second half of the year, July. And they haven't paid salaries. Record articles about the WTO since July to present. I mean, or at least the last couple months, July, August. The new PMZ has been going to different countries. I mean, for example, he went into the U.S., positioned $200 billion just with U.S. energy contracts alone. Okay. Very, very significant steps really towards preparing to value. Record articles just since 2 weekends ago, the 15th of August, talking about deleting the zeros. Lots of record amazing things that we've never witnessed before in the past. In past years, when they talked about deleting the zeros, we were lucky to see 1 or 2 articles a year talking about deleting the zeros. Since 2 Sundays ago, the 15th, we've seen record amounts, anywhere from like 2 to 10 per day, record amounts. So that's really what I want you guys to witness, and just think about how much record steps since July to present we've seen strongly supporting, showing the rates about to change. Let's get into the news. So again, today's just got more good confirming news, and you'll see that as we jump in. Today there's quite a few more articles on the cabinet aspect, but there aren't any that are strongly confirming. They're more generic. Okay. So right here, first article. Minister of Transport, the path to development is the artery of the 21st century and the turning point in Iraq's economy right there. Okay. It is. That's where trade starts and trade launches from that point forward, which is a tremendous amount of revenue for Iraq. Trade's always a big aspect. Plus, once they get trade going, get all their tariffs and taxes in place, that's one of the critical steps that allows them to enter into the world trade. Okay, and I think I have an article on the world trade today as well too. And again, too, that's another thing. Since July, we've seen record news and articles coming out talking about how close Iraq really is to being prepared and eligible to join the world trade. Next article. America is about to make a fortune in the Middle East. Good article here. Okay, it's got Syria in it. It's got Iraq in it. It's got oil. So yeah, lots of different. Again, I'm not going to tear into this guy. It's a very good article here. Post on the forum if you'd like to check it out. Okay. Basically here it says commercial windfall. Donald Trump highlighted an article projecting that the U.S. is on the verge of a multi-$100 billion commercial surge in the Middle East, including $200 billion in Iraq and $100 billion in Syria. Lots of good stuff there. My account. That's kind of the online platform banking system that they're going to be used to disperse salaries and so forth through. It's definitely debit digital. And in this one, it says my account. My account will give Kurdistan employees until the end of August to receive their bank card. So good stuff there, okay? It says my account project team announced Wednesday that August 1st has been set as the deadline for receiving bank cards and completing the procedures related to the project, warning that salaries for employees who do not receive their cards within the specified deadline will be suspended, and they won't have access to their dinar money. And the timing of that is very interesting too. You know, reducing to eliminating cash transactions, going to more debit electronic. And that's one of the major steps they think about that they want to do at the banking reform level to put stricter, stronger controls on money. Okay, so again, that's just a banking reform step getting implemented right there. Okay, so the Ministry of Finance begins funding the salaries of state employees for the month of August. Okay. Now, here's the interesting part. They still haven't paid salaries for July. This is talking about August. They haven't paid salaries yet they haven't paid the salaries let for what do you call it? For August either. Okay. So on this one, it just says Ministry of Finance announced today, Wednesday, that it has begun funding employee salaries for the current month of August. The ministry said in a recent statement that it has begun funding employee salaries starting today. It is worth noting, though, that an informed source revealed last Sunday reasons for not releasing the funding for the salaries of state employees for this month, okay, indicating that funding and disbursement procedures have not yet been completed. So they're kind of letting you know that it really hasn't started yet, okay? So something kind of interesting there. According to the source, lack of financial liquidity and the deadline in revenues contributed to the delay. But again, they're basically saying here the reasons for not releasing the funding for the salaries, indicating that funding and disbursement procedures may have not been completed yet. So again, salaries haven't been paid right there. Okay. All right. So remember too, a while back, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, they talked about printing some new currency, possibly as a secondary route to create more liquidity to get the salaries paid. Okay. Well, here you go. The central bank denies printing a new currency with zeros removed, at least as of right now. Okay. News suggested that they may have already actually done that back in 2018 when they put Ali Alak's signature on the notes. So again, just older historical news already suggested that newer notes with zeros removed may have actually already been printed clear back in 2018, having Ali Alak's signature. But I wanted you guys to see that. Prime Minister's advisor to Baghdad today, the 2027 budget will be ready to be presented to the cabinet within days. Be careful with that, because so far, majority of the articles talking about this have actually stated that hold on, guys. So right here, Prime Minister's advisor told Baghdad today the 27 budget will be ready to be presented to the cabinet within days. That's to the cabinet. That's not the that's actually not Parliament. So it just has to get it does have to get a level of approval at the cabinet level, and then once that's done, then it'll go off to Parliament for their final approval step. Okay, that's really more what this is talking about. Okay, so, and then it even talks about if oil proceeds increase, they may consider doing a supplementary budget after the middle of the year. So maybe around whatever, sometime early next year or something like that. They're just saying if oil proceeds increase, they may consider doing a supplementary budget to add a little bit more revenue into the budget. Okay. So, lots of good information. Now, here's an interesting one for you. It says the article is stating they didn't print new currency to cover or pay salaries in this top article. I've got about 3 articles in here, and then I've got 2 older articles from 2018 telling us how that they printed new currency back then, okay, and so forth. So right here, the first article, it says this actually came from the central bank's website, just so you guys know, so it's legit. Statement issued by the Central Bank of Iraq. If I click on the link right here, it'll take us to it. Statement issued by the central bank. The Central Bank of Iraq has been monitoring media reports and statements regarding the printing of new currency with zeros removed, purportedly for circulation. In this regard, we affirm these reports are not based on any official source, and we deny that the bank has printed any new currency with zeros removed. Again, data suggests, see, that article is talking about now, present day. Here's an older one right here, guys. This is literally from 2018. Changing the design of the Iraqi currency sparks controversy over the governor of the central bank photos. Okay, there's that, and then so there's that one, and then here's another one right here. Again, these are all printed on the form. This one's also from October of. Hold on, I want to see the date on this one. You notice something interesting here. Notice how we're not far away from this period, and I'm not telling you the rate's changing in October. I'm not telling you that, but it's interesting how printing the new currency and then really posting it in the news. They're posting it in the news around early October. So it actually would have been printed maybe in August to September timeframe. Just an interesting, we're kind of in that same period right now. I just wanted you to see the dates. We're just kind of in that same period right now. But anyway, calls to withdraw and destroy them and to charge the bank for printing costs. Iraqi anger over the central bank governor's name being printed on country's currency, again from October. So, and there's some of the perspective notes maybe right there. Says small denominations with the new update. So those are not the I was gonna say I don't think those, because they don't really have a 20. Oh, that's a 2. Well, it's kind of weird how it says 2,500 and 250. So that'd be a 250 note is what that is. So in green. Anyway, just wanted you guys to see the dates, see the older articles from 2018. Trade completes initial presentation procedures for goods in preparation for submitting them to the World Trade Organization. Again, we've seen record articles about everything from this past July to present. The Ministry of Trade announced today, Wednesday, the completion of technical procedures related to the initial goods offer file in preparation for submitting it to the World Trade Organization as part of the requirements for Iraq's accession to the World Trade. Again, they're in their final steps and procedures towards joining. That's why the verbiage or wording in this is structured as it is right here. It says, right here that preparation for submitting to the World Trade Organization as part of the requirements. Okay, hope you guys saw that. Continuing coordination between the relevant government agencies and completing the remaining technical procedural requirements is essential to ensure the preparations for a comprehensive file in accordance with the standards adopted by the organization and to support Iraq's position in the next stages of access negotiations. See, they're using that fancy word again, next stages. Okay? Good stuff there. All right, next article here. All right, so there were quite a few articles again today, more than normal, talking about the cabinet, but again, they're very generic, nothing specific, but at least now they're officially walking you into the month of September with in regards towards them talking about completing the cabinet, okay? So, right here, exclusive Iraq, the nine vacant ministerial positions in PMZ's government will be filled within days. Again, be careful. They did the same thing in August. They talked about saying, "Oh, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it early," blah, and they never did. Okay. Be careful. I would just right now just tentatively position yourself around the middle of September to when you're probably going to get more credible news about the cabinet, okay? And maybe such as a date as to when they're going to approve. The 9 vacant ministerial positions in PMZ's government will be filled within days. Like I said, I don't know if it'll get completed that fast. Let's look at the next article here. The completion of the cabinet formation enters the decisive stage. In this one here, it says Al fairly ruled out resolving the issue during the current month of August, suggesting the final decision will be postponed until September. Yep, we know that. Okay. Realistic timeline. Ruled out doing it in August, confirming the vote will be postponed until September. Good stuff there. Let's look at the next article. Parliament approves addressing the Ministry of Finance to include these categories in the general budget. With these items here, Parliament approved a formal request accompanied by signatures of more than 40 MPs, which are members of Parliament, to address the Ministry of Finance regarding the regularization of contracts and daily wages and the implementation hold on, guys. Sorry about that. Accompanied by signatures of more than 40 MPs, finance regarding the regularization of contracts, daily wages, so forth. So, good little piece there, too. All right, here we go. Sorry, guys. Okay, Prime Minister's advisor to Baghdad today. The 27 budget will be ready to be presented to the cabinet within days. This is a slightly older article. It's like a day or two old. Yeah, the 27 budget will be presented within days. We already saw one similar to this. That one though is actually talking about the cabinet, getting it to the cabinet to make sure the draft aspect is ready to go to be passed off to Parliament for the final steps towards approval. So that's not that questionable. Next article here, Parliament approves addressing the Ministry of Finance to include these categories. And we actually covered that one. Sorry about that. Okay. Advanced understandings reach to fill 9 vacant ministerial portfolios. Voting likely to be postponed until after September. Again, articles like this you have to be careful of. See, you saw one, or postponed until not, I'm sorry. Voting likely to be postponed until September. Yeah, we would expect. That's what all the articles from today said. Okay. Judge Zedin discusses the acting of U.S. ambassador mechanism for enforcing the law after September 30th. Again, that's when they're going international, they have to adhere to international standards, firearms, all that good stuff, lots of things. But that's mostly what these types of articles have been talking about is weapons controls at international levels. MP announces Finance Ministry's approval to secure contracts for ministries and medical staff within the 27 budget. Okay, notice how they're getting out of government operating expenses right here. I just want you to notice that, okay? So this is not government operating expenses. It's tapping and leaning more into the program aspect. So just notice that. Okay, the blocks have submitted We actually saw an older article similar to this. The blocks have submitted 3 candidates for each vacant portfolio, and the vote to complete the cabinet will take place soon. Again, most of the articles from today have talked about voting completing the cabinet during the month of September. And by them, hold on, I want to touch on one more thing on that. See right there, it says the blocks have submitted 3 candidates for each vacant portfolio. That means a majority vote wins. That gives them better odds of completing the entire cabinet at one time. That way, again, 3 candidates for each vacant position. It's better odds of getting this done is what that achieves, okay? Just so you know. Majority vote. Agreements within International Telecommunication Union to raise Iraq's international ranking. Not a real critical article here. 9 ministries remain vacant. The Democrat Party reveals the path to completing Z's cabinet. In this one here, it says unresolved portfolios, 9 total remaining. Legal status confirmed. The federal court rejected the political bloc's appeal against Z's cabinet. Okay. Portfolio allocation breakdown, all that good stuff. All right, hold on, guys. Okay, we talked about that. Okay. Talked about that. All right. So here's another article here. It says this is actually from yesterday. It's the main reason why salaries haven't been paid, and because actually no, this is not from yesterday. Well, it is, but it's a different article. Okay. This article is actually talking more about the same thing, but again, different from yesterday. I showed you guys, I did a really good video on it. It's talking about approving the salary scale. Again, I was telling you that's really the number one reason why salaries haven't been paid, because they need an adjusted salary scale. The salary scales change when the currency value changes. That's what's going on here. And notice we have 2 months of salaries remaining unpaid. Okay. So next article here. The Democratic Party ministries are expected to be approved within 2 weeks. Again, be careful with those types of dates and so forth. Oil for reconstruction, a parliamentary proposal to attract global companies and transfer technology. Again, that's just going to help with all their international revenue. Next one here, cabinet negotiations will not conclude in August, pointing to September as the realistic time frame for a final agreement. That's talking about getting the cabinet done right there. It says right there. Figures expect the file of the cabinet to be resolved in September. And I think that's the bulk of everything. So, yeah, there we go. Again, that's all the important news right there for the day. Wanted you guys to see that. Again, we've had everything we've been waiting to see forever, like articles talking about deleting the zeros. We were used in the past. We used to be lucky to see 1 or 2 a year. Since the August 15th, we've had record amounts almost every other day, or even record amounts every other day. I mean, it's just been record amounts overall. Okay. Lots of good stuff there on every level. Okay. Articles talking about that. Articles talking about a 26 budget, which is, again, that's the borrowing and grants law. Articles talking about the 27 budget. Talking about the troops getting out of here. Remember, it's possible that the rate change may have been drafted and planned, okay, and prepared clear since September of 2024. That's September of 24 is when they started coming out with the full. That's when they spoke and talked about the full plan to withdraw U.S. troops over a 2-year period. Majority in 25. The last remaining no more than 500 as of September of 26. By September 30th of 26. Okay, so just something to think about there, friends. Let's look at your fun comments. Let's have fun with you guys. We're done on the news. Wanted you guys to see that, and here we go. Hold on here. Hello to everybody, and good evening, and hope everyone's doing well and blessed. Love from the Oregon coast. All right. All right, hold on here, guys. Just see. I'm just trying to see if there's anything. Is there an increase of activity in the CBI building? Well, there's maybe a tiny little increase. I mean, since some of their banks are getting the U.S. OFAC sanctions, there were roughly 7 Iraq banks getting these sanctions taken off so they can resume back to working with the dollar and other foreign currencies. You know, they've had more training for the banking staff to make sure that they're more compliant with U.S. standards and requirements. So yeah, there's a tiny bit more. Do you think we'll have to exchange for new notes? I don't know why you'd need new notes. I mean, unless you live in Iraq, I don't think you'd need any new notes. Again, unless you live in Iraq, most of us going to exit out to. Most of us will exit out to the currencies of our country that we live in, is what we'll do. Michael Sanchez, how you doing, buddy? We need to pray for September, absolutely. So far, so good. Well, that's really it, guys. That's pretty much everything. Hold on. How long do you think it will be between seating the parliament and the possible reintegration of the dinar? Not more than a week, man. It'll be fast. So, very short period of time. Jeff, do you think we're going to have a receipt? So, guys, let's talk about this receipt crap. I don't want to. I know of at least one other forum that had a guest speaker in telling you need receipts. You need receipts to exchange your dinar. And that's the biggest pile of horse crap. Okay, you don't need. Okay, let's just break this down. If you went to Mexico and you came back with pesos, or if you came back from Europe with euros, do you need receipts to exchange? The answer is not just no, it's hell no. Okay, so anyone telling you that you need receipts to exchange your currency, tell them to shut the hell up. Okay, here's how this works. Okay, it's real simple. Here's how it's going to work. The banks have, and let's bring De La Rose into this too. Do they have to have De La Rose? Nope, they don't need to have just De La Rose. All that a De La Rose machine is, if you run it through AI or Google it, it's nothing more than a standard money counting machine. That's it. All that the banks need to have is a money counting machine. It doesn't have to be a De La Rose. So get off that train, get off that bandwagon. There's many different brands and makes, like cars. You have gazillions of different brands and makes of cars you can drive. It's the same with the money counting machines. There's many different manufacturers that the banks have. It doesn't need to be just De La Rose, okay? And all they're going to do is run your money through it, and it's going to do these counters. If it's a decent counter, it can actually do up to about 3 things. It can count it, it can sort it, okay? Okay, they can actually sort it and all that, and then it has it can authenticate it with like cameras and imaging and so forth. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. There is again, they can literally do all that. Okay, so that's what that's all that you care to see is, do they have a foreign currency counting machine that can count, sort, and authenticate. Again, authenticating is where it uses its own camera imaging built in, and it's going to check the watermarks on your currency. That's what I'm trying to say. If you think this through, just put your thinking cap on. At the banking level, not tax level, banking level, what do your receipts do for you? Nothing. Receipts don't prove your currency's real. The watermarks and water features or security features on the currency do that, not receipts. So again, at a banking level, receipts don't do a damn thing for you. Okay? Seriously, they don't. So other content creators in this space telling you that you need your receipts, just tell them to shut the hell up. Because again, receipts don't do anything for you. It doesn't prove the currency's authentic. It doesn't prove the security features that are imprinted on the currency. The camera in the accounting machine that authenticates it does that. So forget about this receipt crap. Forget about De La Rose crap. All they need is a money counting machine that can count, sort, and authenticate. Done. Your receipts are for your CPA and your tax purposes, okay? No big deal there. Okay. All right. I recently had this too. I'm being asked, what are my thoughts on Brandon Biggs' prophecy at a rate of 25 cents? Guys, I used to have a little bit more credibility towards Brandon Biggs. I don't anymore. I think that a lot of his prophecies and work now, I don't feel are credible much anymore. Okay, he's not my cup of tea. So that, I hope that answers your question about him on a 20. I've already told you where I'm at on the rate. Okay, so I'm not. Brandon Biggs is just not my cup of tea. Wait, what? How come? I have no idea what you're asking, Angeline Garcia. You say, Jeff, how come deny that printing? Well, I answered that. Again, they claim that they recently had printed new currency to cover the liquidity shortage as to why they can't pay salaries. They said they might print new currency to cover the liquidity shortage. That's why they're coming out today saying, no, this hasn't happened. Plus, they're also claiming, again, it's literally Kuwait syndrome. They don't want you to think that they're going, that's why they said that they haven't printed any new currency from the angle of with less zeros. They don't want you to think that they're going to revalue the currency right now. Again, it's nothing more than a distraction. Kuwait syndrome. That's exactly what Kuwait did shortly before they revalued, back in around 94K. Anyway, hope that helped you out. Hold on here. So, question: is there any angle on a partial for no? Hold on. Is there any angle on a partial for no salaries being paid to get the hoarded currency moving? Well, again, the reason I've already showed you really why the hoarded currency more just comes into play when they delete the zeros. Okay, that's again, so hoarding currency that gets tackled and resolved when the delete the zero step occurs. Okay, the no salaries being paid is more linked to needing to adjust the salary pay scales, kind of like we already covered yesterday and today. Appreciate you, Jeff, on point, sir. September is definitely a month to keep an eye on. Everyone, Zebzag, it absolutely is. Always Diane, why print money for salaries when salaries are paid digital? Exactly, always Diane. They said that was a step they might do. Okay, it was never. They never actually officially came out saying that they were going to do it. They were saying it was more of a consideration. Jeff, I have some dinar notes in rough shape. Could it be a problem at the bank? That's questionable. It's that's questionable. If anything, they might just take it back and phase it out. But it's hard to say because remember, you're at a U.S. bank. You're not in the native country of Iraq, so that's hard to say. And I don't work for the bank, so I can't just tell you exactly how the bank's going to react to you. It might depend on how rough of shape the currency's in as well. But again, that's more of a question directly you'd want to ask the bank. Okay. The exact moment the RV goes live, a guy named Pierre is going to blow a giant 12-foot. Very cool. All right. Someone says they bought $1,000 US last week. All right. Hold on. Still. All right, guys, we're not too worried about all the actual small currency notes each of you have. You don't need to report all that. Okay, that's just unimportant information we don't need to know about. You're better off not disclosing what the heck you got anyway. Keep that to yourself. You guys are more than welcome, Hobbs and Bobs. What's going on, Mr. Brett Hobbs? How you doing, buddy? So anyway, guys, you're the best. Have a wonderful evening. Be blessed, and we'll just take this thing one day at a time. Everything's moving forward as we get into September. We just got to get more around the middle of September to start seeing exactly where we're at with the cabinet. Okay, right now it's very generic cabinet information. They're just like, yep, we're just going to do it in September. That's all we have right now is September. They haven't given us any additional information to start narrowing that window down. But again, I told you guys, it's going to be very short notice because that is what ushers in the rate change. Are you limited to certain banks? For one, I mean, mostly the bigger banks will be the ones that exchange it for you. Fifth Third, the big banks, Citibank, Chase, Wells, B of A, all that. So, Randy, you just call them and they'll tell you if they're going to exchange it or not. Is our government concerned about instant millionaires? No. Not sure why they would. That is not a concern to them. Thanks, Marcy. You're more than welcome. Michael Sanchez, how you doing, buddy? And you're more than welcome, Michael. Always, Diane, you're welcome to you too. Anyway, have a wonderful evening. Love all you guys. Take care. Good to hear it. Good.